Hello, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I am Chamberlain Oso, live from Abuja.
Good morning. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
Obviously, that's not going to end anytime soon, right? Okay. This is Ayo Makinde live from Lagos. And today, in case you've forgotten, is the 12th day in the month of December 2022. Yeah.
And that's 13 days to Christmas.
Who's counting?
Good morning. I am. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Okay, so quite a number of issues will go on today. Quite a number of scenarios that played itself out over the weekend. So we will take a look at some of those. We'll get some security updates, feedback concerning the fuel situation, which we followed up with last week following that DSS intervention. And then, of course, politics. We did have our town hall yesterday, so we'll focus on all of those issues here this morning. But first, we're going to go ahead and start off with a look at some of the dailies this morning. Daily Times, the lead story on the front page of Daily Times, because there's already lots of reactions from that town hall which we did hold yesterday. And so the presidential candidates of the People's Democratic Party and the vice presidential candidates were there, spoke on their plans and programs. And so, all right, so we'll start with the dailies in just a moment. All right, so take a look at the Daily Times here this morning. They're picking up on what the PDP candidates spoke about yesterday. Why I insist on privatization of some national assets ascribed to Atiku. False trader money. Others, once institution created to absorb the program. Reveals how he will solve IPOB agitation. So that is the big one on the front page of Daily Times this morning.
Okay, I'm taking a look at the Abuja Inquirer this morning for you, only because we are in the FCT. I should tell you what is happening here in Abuja. Take a look at what they have there. Revenue collection, INEC, FCTA battle deepens. Counters out of FCT Algon agreement, that's from INEC, warns residents against paying to DOAs. So just in case you're wondering what all of these abbreviations are about, let me see if I can help you. INEC means the, okay, I'm struggling with that now. But it's Abuja Municipal. Yeah, that's INEC, that's what Abuja is. So it's more or less like a local government, while FCT is the Federal Capital Territory Authority. So you now have, because the FCT is a special state, it's the capital of the country. It's not like any other state. It's administered by the federal government of Nigeria, and I think it has a special status. So you have this local government. You have 6 districts within the FCT, and INEC is one of them. So I think there is some problem right now with revenue collection, more like you have a row between a state and local government. So that's what you're seeing right there on the front page, and I think the writer helps explain it. Counters out of FCT Algon agreement. that's from INEC. And ALGON is supposed to be the body, the overall body or general body for local governments. It's their own association. So what is happening there, you might want to take a look at what is happening inside the front page. But it will be totally unnecessary, Chamberlain, you know, to have that kind of row. Why wouldn't they just have a central collection body for all revenues and taxes, and then they distribute it in a fair and equitable and transparent manner amongst all of the local councils? This is totally unnecessary. But let us hope that the headline draws attention to the problem.
Yeah.
That'll be all for Abuja Inquirer.
Well, Makwe, revenue collection and expenditures at the heart of the matter, you know, for most of the conversations we've been having in recent times, you know, and that's why one of the stories on the front page of This Nigeria also talks about, you know, the demand for accountability on a particular, you know, revenue. And that's just beside the nameplate at the top of This Nigeria. And it says, ultimatum, disclose your expenditure on 625 billion naira fund. Serap challenges 9 governors. Well, that is bound to continue in the coming days, perhaps not from Serap, but, you know, from other government agencies who in recent times have been demanding accountability from governors over one form of revenue or the other. And just a quick one, the big story talks about 2023 elections. Nigeria now seriously polarized. Kuka, other religious leaders raise alarm. Let's leave it there for This Nigeria.
Still talking money. Look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Only this one is a perennial issue. Foreign airlines retain 200% high fares. Stranded fund hits $551 million. And look at the riders. Tough choices for travelers with 2 million naira, 3 million naira economy class tickets. Nigeria tops countries with highest blocked funds globally. Carriers got £120 million, $120 million, not $265 million from CBN, says IATA. And lawmakers urge understanding as travel experts task federal government on obligations to airlines. As the Guardian newspaper this morning, more money talks.
Leadership.
Okay, let me say leadership. All right, take a look at Leadership newspaper. Then 2023, Tinubu hits back at Atiku over security watch comment. Asks Nigerians to be wary of PDP candidates' sugar-coated promises. You're unfit to be president, Atiku replies. Pledges prudent use of security votes at Channels TV's The People's Town Hall. So that is their big lead here this morning. So quite a number of issues that were highlighted yesterday at that town hall meeting, which we'll be following up in just a moment. But that is Leadership newspaper this morning.
I'll take a look at what the Nigerian News Direct has on the front page. NNPC to supply 8,000 crude oil barrels per day in 5 years is the lead story. There's no rider to that story, but take a look at this. Infrastructure recommendations for getting Nigeria out of poverty already being addressed, as is attributed to Fashola. We'll leave it there for Nigerian News Direct.
And from Nigerian News Direct, let's quickly take a look at Daily Independent. It focuses on the economy, and of course, you know, rightfully so. This is how the big story is captioned. FG's tight fiscal policies in 2023 may put businesses on edge. Let's take a look at the riders. Perhaps we could get more insight. Analysts say they will lead to more cases of job cuts. Well, perhaps in this case, reference is being made to the CBN's, you know, policy on withdrawal limits, the new Naira notes, and sundry related economic policies. But if you need more details on this story, I believe it's a page 29 read. It continues on page 29 inside Daily Independent. And Let's leave it there for Daily Independent.
Daily Trust newspaper also gives you the story that Chamberlain mentioned as one of those security issues that we will be looking at later on. Bloodbath in Southeast. Police mobilize against IPOB terror. And look at the riders. How 24 were killed in Imo, Enugu, and others. Witnesses and Mieti Allah that subscribe to them. Were in panic. Northerners in Southeast. Division in separatist group over sit-at-home order. And agitators digging abysmal pits for themselves. Let's subscribe to Ohaneze. All of that, you'll find the rest on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Look at right above, beg your pardon, right above that story under the nameplate. 89 trillion naira stamp duty recovery move sparks controversy. Wait a minute. Am I reading that right? 89 trillion naira stamp duty recovery move sparks controversy. Recovery move sparks. How much is the Nigerian budget? That's 89 trillion naira.
In the realm of trillions, I believe.
Yes, but is it up to 80? It's not up to 89 trillion.
Not up to 89 trillion.
Well, this story will be
perhaps
interesting.
you should place it in greater context. You know, it could be over a period. So if you looked at the story in detail, you'll have more insight into.
Well, the details of it you'll find on page 23 of the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Of course, right beside that one, new cashless policy will discourage rigging. That's ascribed to Sanusi. How so? Page 23 has details of that one. How exactly that will happen? We want to find out. Well, we haven't talked about this in a long time, but hey, look at Daily Trust newspaper still keeping count, still in captivity. 11 schoolgirls of FGC burning KB 545 days after, and one student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, 517 days after. That's on the front page of Daily Trust newspaper. It's just a reminder, let's not forget. That's the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
We'll take a look at New Telegraph next. 2023, Tambuwal visits Autumn, seeks end to party's impasse, says crisis, political conflict, not war of attrition. Talking to me alone won't help me. Okay, look at that. Talking to me alone won't help. Meet all G5 governors. Benue governor responds, urges Christians to vote patriotic leaders. So I think it follows that Tambuwal's visit. So who knows? I think it might just be one of the several other meetings that may be scheduled to hold, since they are, a group of 5. So I guess they'll expect, that's what lots of people expect, that meeting will hold. And then, of course, then they'll be looking to see how the meeting with the Rivers State governor will go, and the feedback that will be there afterwards, if they will brief the press on the outcome of the meeting.
Just look on your face, Chamberlain. I knew there was something more to it.
I was just looking forward to those meetings. I mean, Autumn is already saying here, talking to me alone won't help. You need to meet all the other 5 governors. So, I mean, if it's a reconciliation meeting, I guess it will happen. So we'll look forward to that one. And then at the bottom strip here, Buhari begs Katsina voters, don't put me to shame. Vote APC. Oh dear. Look at that. I'll be fair, just president to all Nigerians. Tinubu assures Southwest Muslim leaders of faster economic growth. So, whatever you make of that one, I mean, the economic growth could be faster. So he says it will be faster. And then you see 2023, how I'll resolve IPOB's agitations. Others, Atiku says PDP won't allow APC snatch power. Challenges Tinubu on source of wealth. Okowa, strategic engagement critical for growth. And then you see Adeleke heads PDP's Southwest Presidential Campaign Committee. So that is what you find on the front page of New Telegraph this morning.
Nigerian Tribune also has another angle to that crisis still rocking the PDP in terms of the division between the G5 governors and the rest of the party. Look at this PDP crisis. I'm waiting for Wike. I met him 5 times, attributed to Atiku. The number of riders right on at the bottom there as Autumn Tambuwal meet. Atiku campaign raises poses over Tinubu's wealth claim. Alleges EFCC bias. Atiku's declaration to sell NNPC assets for $10 billion, a huge joke that's attributed to the APC-PCC, that's the APC Presidential Campaign Council. Tinubu meets Southwest Muslim leaders in Ibadan. The story is also there on the front page. Look at this, no PVC, no vote, INEC reiterates. Just in case you're wondering if they'll change their mind. No, that's not happening anytime soon. Don't forget that from today, you can begin to pick up your PVCs. So please, by all means, if you know you're done with your registration, you did a valid registration and you still have that slip, do visit, I think, the wards. First of all, doing it at the wards, bringing it very close to the voter first. And then I think after a certain period, maybe about 2 weeks or so, then it will now be at the local government. So do make sure that you're able to collect it now that it is closer to you. Any other story here that will be interesting to look at? Well, this one is a bit disturbing. 4 shot, many missing after military police raided community twice in 1 month. That's according to Amnesty International. Hoodlums on reprisal invade Ondo community, kill 2. Destroy farmlands, burn houses. So there's still some low-level violence happening somewhere. But let's leave it there for the Nigerian Tribune.
Yeah, you go. That ends it with a look at some of the dailies here this morning. We will be back in just a moment. Do stay with us.
I still cannot understand why we should have Boko Haram. You see, I served in Borno State when it was the northeast. And as a custom officer, I was patrolling the entire northeast. So I'm very, very conversant with the vegetation and with the border areas. I still cannot find a place in the Borno area where anybody can hide and cannot be seen. I cannot understand, honestly, the Boko Haram phenomenon. Sometimes when returning from Europe, 30 feet above, I could see a man walking in Borno State. So where is the place to hide? To the extent that they said there is a place called Zambisa. I've been there. I didn't see a forest. It's just shrubs here and there. So, and we have deployed the Nigerian military, which used to be the best, one of the best in the world. They have fought, you know, a number of international arena, and they have excelled. And here we are deploying the Nigerian military with its might and everything. And we just couldn't, eliminate Boko Haram.
with the participation, as my presidential candidate has said, of the organized private sector and the informal sector, bringing all of them into the national health insurance bracket, you'll find that you have enough pool of funds to be able to take care of the very vulnerable who are not able to pay their premiums. In Delta State, for instance, since 2017 January, we have been providing for the vulnerable, here classified into all pregnant women and children under the age of 5, from 0 to 5 years. We've been providing and paying their premium from the pool of funds that we have been able to generate with the state government funding it. But unfortunately, we've had just one release because the act was signed in 2014 December. It was operationalized by this current government, but just for 2018 monies were released, and since then we've had a lot of hiccups. So the act is actually not followed through, because government is supposed to provide some level of funding as required by law. And then if that money gets into a pool of funds, the state governments are supposed to pay their own counterpart funding. And that creates a large pool of funds. So the government at the federal level would definitely put down its own funding and get the state governments to provide the counterpart funding. I think that would create the needed pool of funds. And if we're able to do that, we would have been able to reduce the very high level of infant mortality and under 5 mortality rate that we have, one of the worst indices in the world. We'll be able to reduce the very high level of maternal mortality. And I think there will be a turnaround in the next 4 years.
Bwala, spokesperson, Atiku-Okowa Presidential Campaign Organization, joins us this morning to shed further light and not heat on some of what you just heard. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So security, health, economy, among some of the issues the PDP spoke about yesterday in terms of what they intend to do. But data security, we know is going to be huge in terms of how he approaches all of that. But the impression that their security plan will achieve results in 4 years, many may just wonder, well, okay, if all this while, after several years, even up till now, we'll still have security challenges, how do we say for sure that their plan will achieve the said results in 4 years?
I guess the there you're referring to is Atiku-Okowa, right? Okay, nowhere in our document, in our policy document, have we mentioned a timeline like 4 years, for dealing with insecurity. It's a global phenomenon, right? It's an ongoing thing. But what we have promised is that Atiku-Okowa ticket will bring leadership. And what we think is not demonstrated in the APC-led government is genuine leadership. Leadership that will hold to account people tasked with the responsibility or with the duties of enforcing the law or securing territories. We have seen over the years in this government or in the APC government where service chiefs or individuals who are tasked with the responsibility of securing lives, we are somehow lackluster in the carrying out of their duties and have not been called to book. We have also seen a number of occasions where the news media reported over and over and over the kind of friction existing between interagencies, right? So there's no cooperation. I remember there was a time they talked about when intelligence suggests that the enemies are coming in a certain direction, the foot soldiers will give hints to the Air Force and expect that there will be a raid, and then they will go and mop up the people, and that there will be a delayed, and as a result of which the armies will be affected. We've had that. We've also had a situation where several intelligence reports came out from key security platforms of the government, but policymakers have not been able to act upon it. So, for example, when we had this Kuje, I won't say jailbreak, but Kuje attack, everybody was attacking different, security enforcement agencies of the government, until we got the information that about 6 months earlier, the Department of State Services had in fact hinted that there was a planned attack like that. So if you look at the accumulation of these activities, which is now resulting in chaotic disorder, we hold the view that there are two things involved. One, lack of leadership that will hold people to account. But much importantly, and much more than that, we believe that if you don't know strategy, you become a victim of tragedy. So our belief is that so many things are not put in place.
When you say that, nowhere in the manifesto do you speak about 4 years.
Right.
They're going to be elected for a 4-year term. That's all that is guaranteed in the first instance. So is it that we shouldn't expect that they will solve the security challenge we have in 4 years?
It is that we should expect that they would deal substantially with insecurity in less than 4 years. But I'll give you an example of pegging certain things when you have not manned the office. I remember when President Muhammadu Buhari, who of course everyone knows has a good intention in ending insecurity, came on board and taxed the security chiefs and gave them 3 months. And he said, go to Borno and the Northeast and in 3 months deal with that situation. And a few months after that, all the security chiefs that were sent to Borno found their way back to Abuja. And there is never a word as to whether the work was concluded or not. You see, timelines are important because they help in people making up their mind and decision about you. Ending insecurity is the point I'm talking about, that we have not time ending insecurity. And when you say ending insecurity, it means bringing insecurity to a point where the nation will be completely free. Now,
No, in terms of the insurgency.
Right. So I believe,
what kind of results should we expect?
In insurgency, I believe that within the period of 4 years, we should be able to stop it. And I will tell you why. And we must first acknowledge the fact that President Muhammadu Buhari tried a little bit, right? And so what we believe is that when we deploy what we have already hinted in our policy document, we're dealing with security. For example, with respect to the armies, we believe that we need to expand their capacity. So 300 or less than 300,000 soldiers are not enough to protect the territorial integrity of the country.
Is it going to employ more?
Yeah, certainly. And then with the police system, in our document, we said we're looking at a broad-based approach that will increase police personnel. And by that, we're not talking about just the police themselves, but all law enforcement to a max of 1 million. If you have that, you are going to expand that. And because we also have a plan for restructuring, we believe that devolution of power to states will create the opportunity for states to generate their own law enforcement to deal with insecurity.
Multi-level policing.
Exactly. And when you do that, then of course you believe that to a large extent you'll be able to deal with that problem.
So privatization is also one of the many things that the candidate of your party intends to do. I mean, he keeps talking about the economy and working very strongly with the private sector. There's even this talk around selling the NNPC. He said that in 2019, and he seems to be saying it again. However, there are questions as to how transparent that process is going to be, assuming it were to go through. Some people think that at least the state should be able to keep something, to itself, that it can run by itself. So there are questions around, how is so sure that when privatization happens, it will not be to the friends and cronies of the PDP?
First of all, there must be a transparent process to privatization. And there is a law for that in Nigeria, And then second of all is that if you look at the quote-unquote moribund assets of the federal government, which, like he said yesterday, have hitherto been non-functional, and that every year we have budgets to service what has not been functioning. In other words, we're making losses. I need to correct the impression that privatization means the government is giving up everything. If an asset of government is privatized, there will be a stake of government in the property, in the asset. Secondly, the role that the government will play is that of a regulatory body. The marked difference between us and probably APC is that they believe in full governed economy. The problem about full governed economy is that sometimes you are flexing muscles, even when things are not working. And we also know that between total socialism and capitalism, so quote unquote, one that has significantly improved economy and improved the prosperity of the people is one that encourages to a large extent private participation in the economy. This TV station is a private entity. Now, it has been effective over the years because the environment has been so favorable to this entity, and it has created competition, because then now you have too many media outfits, and then you have a system where you assess people. And ever since we had private TVs coming into the media platform of the government, you see that things have changed. It is the same thing. You talk about whether it is a small-scale business, where you talk about investment in terms of foreign investors, or even domestic investors in a large scale. So whatever it is, when the private sector players are involved in the economy, there is prosperity. I can guarantee you that it is not within the power of Atiku, Abubakar, or Governor Okowa, or anybody in government to upstage the law. There is a law that governs privatization and privatization. Look at Aramco. At the beginning, people thought that the entire lifeline and lifeblood of Saudi Arabia is the oil, and that they were never going to, privatize their oil company to Aramco. Aramco has been privatized, and during this period of Russia-Ukraine war, they were able to post a profit of $90 billion. They had some they put in their stake in the U.S., and some was reinvested back into the economy. We have 4 refineries that are non-functional. And so for the optics, people have used that in the past against him to suggest that anytime you talk about privatization, what it means is that you're going to give back to your friends. If your friends, let me give you a worst case scenario. There is a process that will lead up to privatization and people bid for it. Assuming somebody who happens to know you succeed in the process and owns that, does it mean he's going to wield it the way he wants it? There are laws. There are investors. It means there are shareholders. And the law of corporate governance is that the shareholders are entitled to know everything about that organization. It is practically impossible for somebody to say when the assets of government are privatized, then they will now end up in private pocket or become non-effectual. I know in the past, there were privatization programs that didn't succeed because after the people have acquired those assets, they did not give it the needed commitment that is required to, grow the business.
Which is a danger that, at least you have identified. How are we going to prevent the danger this time around from assets as critical like the NNPC?
So he talked about the role of the public sector, which is to frame laws, policies, and regulation. So if we have a very strong regulation and strong policy, transparent policy that will guide the bidding process, that will everything that is involved around privatization, then you can be sure that people will be able. It's like you are, how do I put it? Where something is transparent in the eyes of everyone. Where there is a change in color or where there's a malpractice or infraction, somebody will be able to see it. Besides, that's why you exist as members of the press.
Well, we can see all of that. I mean, Nitel is an example, a government entity that was privatized till today. It's not functioning. All the other telcos seem to be doing pretty great, besides Nitel, which was privatized. There are a number of other examples, but I think what people really fear is how do you intend to do this in such a way that jobs are protected? Because part of what we've seen, the hiccups we've seen with privatizing government assets, is also protecting the jobs of the workers who are currently in those entities. Oftentimes, the unions are up in arms with government. Do you envisage this? And, what sort of protection are you going to be offering the workers? Because at the end of the day, it's supposed to be about the welfare of the people.
So in a private sector-led economy, competition and competence is the key factor. And I'm sure that even your organization will not tolerate incompetence. And if you are competent in the public sector that is sold out or privatized, you can be sure to retain your job. It's just like what you say in the banking industry. People who are not effective have found their ways out of the bank. Those who can compete can show effectiveness and productivity are able to stay. We all have to agree that the system of government we have run since from 1960 till date has not been effective and effectual in checking people who are in civil service. I give you an example of people at state level. People just go to work and come back and get paid. They don't do work, they don't do nothing. And if our idea of a growth and economic growth is to see that just because we want people who are lazy, who are ineffective to stay on the job, you have to pay them because you have to ensure that people keep their job, then I don't think we're prepared for economic development. However, that is not the only sector, or that is not the only, that's not the only sector where people can find opportunities. If I'm working in NITEL, well, let me give an example of if I'm working in NNPC, for example, and it is privatized, as a result of which I lose my job. If I'm effective, there are other areas I can find job. And with the intention of government to, to invest in small and medium enterprise, it means a lot of people, Nigerians, are going to find those opportunities. What do you talk about people who have graduated, never had a job, and are able to tax their brain and come up with something meaningful? Productivity is key.
I understand, and I cannot dispute the fact that productivity is key. However, there'll be talk around, I mean, the example which you cited, which is the bank. Some people will say that, what we have there in a number of, institutions right now is something that contravenes our labor laws, where a lot of members of staff have been casualized, workers that should earn full pay with benefits are left, holding the short end of the stick, excuse me, so to speak. So whilst we privatize and look forward to the benefits that privatization could bring in terms of productivity, there must also be safeguards to ensure that, workers are not exploited, even in their own country.
Certainly the process that will lead up to the privatization might involve the retention of workers who are effective and efficient. Workers who are capable, workers who came in to that service with competency. For example, if somebody got the job probably with ND, when you should have actually gotten the job with a degree, and it is privatized, they have to look at that, look at your document and to see whether you came in competently. And if you did not come in competently, the government cannot say because you are in there, we have to go out of our way to keep you there. However, like I said, in a private sector-led economy, jobs are created. So you may be out of a job A, but you can find yourself in job B. You may be out of a job B, you can find yourself in job C. There's practically no sector of the economy today where there is security. Security is in your commitment to succeed in what you do, and this is what a private-led sector economy will provide. If you have increased opportunities, it means you can always find your level.
I assume you must have seen the comment from the APC. They hit back at you already saying, right. What is he talking about? That the security measure is exaggerated, and that that your party, Atiku, forgot to tell Nigerians that when he also spoke about the fact that there are several out-of-school, Nigeria has the highest number of out-of-school children which could challenge insecurity. They say, look, that it stemmed from the leadership of your party, that's right. The PDP. So how could they come and begin to blame the current government not having done enough in security, and that they could do better even with out-of-school children?
So that's the problem they have, actually. I talked about conflict of self-interest, right? One thing about life is that political position, they are not in perpetuity. When you are elected to office, you serve for 4 years and then renewable for another 4 years. During this period, you are expected to do everything you said you are going to do. Now, what they talked about security and economy and fighting corruption was not a standard set by us, standard set by the media. It's a standard set by themselves. They say, this is what we want to do. When you were coming up with that standard, you ought to have measured, studied, assessed the situation on ground and believe. And that's why when the Mawkwe talked about timeline, I had to be very specific. It's very easy for the optics to come and lie. But we have to be realistic because we've been through a lot as a nation. We have seen 8 years of lies, renewed lies, multiplied lies, which has taken us far, brought us back to the same level. In fact, some people make the case that it has taken us even back. Because, okay, to look, for example, in 2015, we did not have this multidimensional poverty index. I mean, 133 million people thrown out, thrown into multidimensional poverty. Now, you have 8 years. What did you do? They talked about we came in, we saw little income, and they think that by that optics and narrative, they will change or manipulate the people. Do you know during this period, they expanded the tax net, which generated a lot of income for them? Do you know now everything is taxable? There is deposit tax, withdrawal tax. They got to a point where they say, even the money you kept to your account, if they see that you have not been using it for a certain period, they are going to take the money and use it. Do you even know? You see, there is virtually no aspect of government over the last 7 years that they have not exploited those opportunities to meet those demands. But one thing that will knock them all in what they are talking about, they've introduced social investment program. not a single of those programs has been subjected to scrutiny by the government.
Your principal says that, yes, they will create an institution to absorb all of those. That's what he wants to do.
Yeah, so what we're talking about is accountability.
Yeah, isn't that what the government is trying to do already by asking the National Assembly to come up with that law to accommodate it?
Okay, look at it. That's hypocrisy, right? Fallacy of hypocrisy, and I will tell you why. You ask the National Assembly to legislate when those you appointed cannot even account for what they do. Accountability comes, and then you legislate, because it is after forensic analysis you'll be able to know what the problems are, and then talk about how to come up with laws.
All right, our colleagues in Lagos have got some questions for you.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Let me, Mr. Bwala, I'd like you to speak as a Nigerian. I know you are here to represent, your candidate and all. But there is an issue that's been thorny for very many years, even from as far back as maybe even 1999. And it's that of a central control of sorts for security in the country. There are those who would always ascribe various kinds of reasons to why insecurity perpetuates itself. All the security agencies seem to be working in silos. Customs working differently from immigration, FRSC working differently from NDLEA, the police working differently from the army, Navy working away from, Air Force and all. And it's something that the president has said over and over again. You're aware of all of the challenges we're having in that regard. So I'm wondering exactly how will your candidate, saying he is a unifier, unify all of these forces in a way that they work coherently and collaboratively to mitigate insecurity to the barest minimum. Exactly how?
Right, so the how is to provide decisive leadership. He said that yesterday. And let me tell you what decisive leadership in this context means. If you appoint people into various roles, and as a result of which you expect that they will bring all of these roles together in synergy for the purposes of achieving a common goal, and for whatever reason you don't find synergy, you don't find cooperation, you find that they work at cross purposes, what does a leader do in the circumstance? The leader will read the Riots Act, one. The leader will take decision. Because you see, every job given, the job is taxed with responsibility, and you are expected to account for it. And for every job, there is a consequence. If you succeed, there is a reward. If you don't, there is a punishment. We have seen just a minor sack in the last 7 years. But for all of the occasions where complaints have come up from agencies which expected that their colleagues will cooperate to them in the discharge of their functions, we have not seen a decision by the man who appointed the DC, because the box stops only on one desk. They will continue to run the way they are running until the man who is in charge provides the direction. So everything rises and falls on leadership.
Okay. Well, Mr. Bwala, is that saying that your principal will sack anyone who does not perform as expected? I ask that in the background of the fact that that it's perhaps easier to remove a minister than a civil servant, especially those who are in office and can only be removed from office or from their jobs based on certain, rule of law, so to speak.
So there is a chain of command. The president will not go beyond the minister to talk to the PAMSEC or to talk to a director in a ministry. The minister is there representing the president. If you look at Section 5, you will see that the executive powers of the Federation lies with the president, and that he discharged that duty either by himself or through the vice president or through the ministers and other agents of the Federation. So when you see a minister in a ministry, it is the president in that ministry. And so the president will hold to account the minister, not the public servant like the PAMSEC or the director who came by way of recruitment, and except if he violates the law as codified in whatever law that governs them, you may not be able to just remove him. But it is a minister, and that's why we talk about leadership. There would always be somebody that is expected to guide the affairs of a given body. If he fails to do that, he will be sacked. Now, if you look at the legislative branch of government, all of them are elected and not appointed. if you look at the judicial branch of government, all of them are appointed and not elected. It is only the executive branch of government that has an elected official who also appoints the people. And the reason is because the president cannot be in Abuja and in Maiduguri, or cannot be in Abuja and Lagos, he cannot be in Abuja and somewhere in another part of the country. But he has people he has assigned with the responsibility to carry out their duty. And so yes, the president, Atiku-Abubakar, when he becomes the president, as surely as he will take decisions where necessary. And you remember when PDP came on board in 1999 to 2007, that was evident in their way and modus operandi. They were sacking, there were reshufflement, there were acts by government that suggest that somebody is watching and somebody is taking decision when the need arises. A decision taken at the wrong time is worse than a right decision taken at the wrong time.
Well, which raises another question, Mr. Bwala, because you have just mentioned something now, which is there are 3 levels of employment in the civil service, be it federal, state, or local: the elected, the appointed, and the recruited, the people who apply to get jobs. Now, it's terminal for anyone who is elected into office, and perhaps for those who are appointed as well. But it's a little different, a lot different actually, for those who are recruited, who applied to get jobs. They are there much longer than anyone else who is appointed or elected. And consequently, one wonders exactly who is government, because they understand the system a lot more, and they can frustrate anyone who is unable to do whatever it is that he's supposed to do part-time. So that also speaks to perhaps a need to look at the way the civil service runs at the federal level in particular, where many say corruption actually resides. So what will be the focal point, or how will that be addressed, given that the civil service is the engine of the car and the appointed fellows are just maybe the body, the headlamps and all of that of the same vehicle?
Yeah, so you probably to say civil service reform, but I need you to know that there are civil service rules. There are codes also that govern operations by public servants. For example, a civil servant cannot run for political posts in the country. If you're a civil servant and you participate in political activities, then you can be sacked. A civil servant must come to work as required. A civil servant must not collect bribe or give bribe. A civil servant must not engage in fight. There are rules that govern civil service. And so the ministers will hold the people to account. The pansec will hold the people to account. The director, so there is a chain of command. And I agree with you that civil servants can frustrate a public officer, a public appointed officer like a minister. And so what that means is that then we have to look at civil service reform where necessary and ensure that we revamp the reform to ensure that the service of civil servant will be such that it will not give room for corruption or any other vices.
I'm interested in your candidate's position.
All right, so one more thing before you go. We understand when he says that it's not up to him to sort out the Wiki challenge. Many thought, wait a minute, does it mean that he has done all that he can? Has he offered all that he can to ensure that Wiki and the group come back to the PDP?
Yes, exactly so. He has offered all that he can. He has done all that he can. Like you told you, he met him in Port Harcourt. So that means he traveled there twice. He met him in Abuja. That means he moved from wherever location he is to where Wiki is. And then the third one, he met him in London. And by the way, he was in France. When there was need for them to meet, he flew to London to meet with him.
So that means whatever demand that the group of 5 have, he's not going to accede to anything further.
No, we don't know what else is the demand other than we're pleading with them to come on board. You can see we're already moving. We're built to win, brother. We are going to win this election. Do you know why?
Without the G5?
No, we don't use the word with or without because we need people, right? But we are going to win.
You're moving on from the G5?
We've already moved, actually.
Oh.
We've already moved, but not without them.
We moved on. It means without them, then.
I know you could move with someone in the same location or you move with someone at a different location.
Okay. There you go. Being political, that politicians do, isn't it? There you go. Daniel Bwala, spokesperson, Atiku-Okowa, Presidential Campaign Organization. Thank you for coming on and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're back in a moment. Stay with us. So a number of issues playing itself out in the polity, which we'll take a look at. There's that report in Borno ascribed to the speaker, saying that some local governments are still under the control of Boko Haram, and then some reports about 30 persons being kidnapped in Enugu. And then in Imo, police also, they say that the policeman and some others have been killed, even though they said they repelled the attack. But that of Bauchi, I remember the Komani Al-Khairi area where oil was discovered, is controversial at the moment. So those are some of the issues we'll highlight this morning. We've got two gentlemen joining us this morning to shed some light on this matter. Dr. Manu Ojukwu is the Provost, Police Public Relations School, Abuja. He's a former Commissioner of Police for Kogi, Eastern Port, and Enugu Command. He's a former Force PRO and member, Anambra State Truth, Justice and Peace Commission. Well, sitting beside him is Honorable Aliyu Ibrahim Gebi, the National Coordinator, Security Governance Initiative, and the former member, Security Committee for the House of Representatives. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming.
Good morning. Yes.
Let me start with you, Honorable Gebi. Even though the Bauchi State Police Command has issued a statement about what they think happened in Bauchi, in fact, they were categorical that no such attack happened. But there are still some unanswered questions that this press release hasn't answered. So from your perspective, what do you think happened?
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me. I think it will be premature to come on national TV and begin to preempt a conclusion to an event that is still sketchy. Personally, I'm from Bauchi, and I will tell you with all sense of responsibility that up till now, nobody has reached out to me from Bauchi to tell me that such an incident occurred in Bauchi. But having said that, there is a lot of chatter around from some credible sources, and as was discussed earlier, some quite detailed description of what may have happened. So I think we should give it a little bit of time, perhaps later part of today, to see exactly what transpired. Whether there was an incident, one, and then two, the magnitude of the incident, and then three, the location of the incident. I think the state government is quite responsible, and besides, you have other security agencies that will not shy away from stating the truth. The DSS formation, for example, in Bauchi will certainly come out and tell you exactly what transpired. So I think we shouldn't preempt. We should wait a little bit and pray for the best and hope for the best also.
But Dr. Ojukwu, you're in public relations, and the way police handle this matter will shape a lot, either in terms of the perspective, perception, the narrative out there. But many will say, they've had some time on their hands with which they even came up with a press release. And press releases in this kind of matter, does it cut it? Shouldn't they be speaking to people and explaining those details rather than just a press release?
Well, a press release is to advertise what happened and make a statement as to their position, the veracity or otherwise of a certain report or an alleged attack at a facility. That press release addresses it. But sometimes it may be sketchy, may not be as detailed, and sometimes too, a release may be done in a hurry, which is a fault. A release has to be well thought out, and it has to be a definitive statement. So I think, as my colleague mentioned here, a lot more satellites has to be beamed on that incident, alleged incident. I do believe that in the days ahead, we may get a clearer picture. If there are contrary reports or issues suggesting that the police was hasty and the police did not give the correct picture of what happened, they may revisit it. It's not a final document, actually. So I do believe that if such a facility was attacked and the international community are interested in what is happening, Nigerians too, all you have just been discovered there, a lot of eyes are on it. The police has to revisit that situation and then maybe later in the day or within the week, give a definitive statement.
I'm looking at the police statements right now, and it is interesting. They say, while the aim of the promoters of the unfortunate story is unknown, the negative reports or such negative reports could undermine the efforts of the police and other security services. But if you look at the detail now, they did not dismiss in its entirety the fact that that place had been experiencing some security challenges. They say, sequel to the commissioning of the Kolmani oil field project site, the command deployed more operational assets and intensified intelligence gathering and visibility patrols in a bid to decimate the activities of non-state actors in the area. So it does look like there have been the presence of non-state actors in the area before now. But to just simply dismiss and say that, you know, the aim of those who put out that story, I'm looking at the actual words that they use now. Yeah, they say the attention of the Bauchi State Command has been drawn to the viral media publications in some sections of the media alleging that 10 people were killed in a week by kidnappers around newly discovered field communities. This story is false in its entirety. That's what they said. But you have to ask, what will it profit any media house to sit and concoct stories, naming leaders, naming and saying that people have fled the area and that, you know, some people have been kidnapped and that the least ransom that has been paid in that particular area is about 2 million naira. These are, you know, very, very detailed, you know, instances. So, and the police is also admitting that there have been security challenges in that area prior to this time. So there are questions as to, is the police being entirely, you know, correct? Or because I fear if you say that there will be other security agencies that could come up in future to give a clearer picture, couldn't that sort of thing cause rivalry? Shouldn't there be a, you know, a clearer explanation of what actually transpired?
Well, you know, there's been a lot of synergy among the security agencies. And if an incident of that nature happened in Alkalere, the police, the DSS, and perhaps the military may have come to the picture. And they will share intelligence, they will share reports. So I believe that in the days ahead, we may get a clearer picture of what happened there. But as the police deploy some assets to Alkalere, it's not an ongoing process. It's like a routine now. Many areas of Nigeria have issues. Alkalere area, that stretch, also has some issues.
All right, gentlemen, pardon me. I understand I've just been told we need to go on a quick break to address a certain challenge, but we will be back in just a moment. Join us again. All right, welcome back. It's a live show, so sometimes you get some of these things. So please go ahead, your response.
So if there are emerging information, if there are new information as to what happened, if there are new reports from eyewitnesses or relatives or victims themselves, maybe we may get a clearer picture and the police will revisit.
Yeah, but when you have already said the entire story is false.
It could be hasty. It could be hasty, maybe in response. It could be a reaction and not really a response. They just reacted to what they had and all that. I believe they will revisit it if there are new information. And if there's also, if there are feedbacks or input from other agencies who may have presence in that location. And I do know a number of them have presence there. So I'm sure they'll share notes and address the issues properly and let Nigerians be at peace.
But it appears as though there's a lot more. You know, when you talk about perhaps the DSS will come up, you come across as though there's a lot more information that is not out yet.
No, you see, we have to again be very, very careful. First and foremost, Alkalere is the current governor's, Bauchi State governor's primary constituency. So if there's anyone that has skin in this game, it is the governor of Bauchi, Governor Bwala Mohammed, who is from that area, like I said. Number two, Alkalere and its immediate environs now is of specific economic importance to Nigeria. So it is not just another location. So if there are issues, there are technical components that should be kicked into process, and some other things will take precedence over some other things. Unlike the colleague here said, nobody is operating in a silo. Never again in Nigeria, certainly not within the security and defense matrix. So whatever may have happened, even if there was an incident, perhaps the way that it has been reported, just because oil has been discovered in that space, gives now a wider space for mischief makers, people to distort and contort information. And we're in a country where people fabricate lies, stories with dead bodies and so on and so forth, and put it out there. So again, I would tarry a little while and wait for the political leadership of Bauchi State to put out its own statement.
Well, gentlemen, let's switch to this matter in Borno. It raises some concern because the Speaker of the Borno State House of Assembly, not once, not twice, almost more than 3 times now. In January, there was that in February, and again over the week, he says that 2 local government areas in Borno State are under the control of Boko Haram insurgents, and he went ahead to name those local government areas. So, how do we deal with this kind of scenario? You heard about that, have you?
Yes, certainly. You see, what worries me more than anything else is the fact that in terms of fighting insecurity in Nigeria, everyone is looking for just political successes. No one is looking for operational successes. Operational successes happen every second of every minute of every hour. Close to 100,000 people have surrendered, have crossed the line, whether civilians, whether fighters, their families, or whatever. These are people who are hitherto across the other line. That is without contestation. Number 2, some of the Chibok girls were recovered this year, I think between 12 and 14. Again, that is an operational success. But people are looking for tangible political successes because this is the season. So if the senior colleague, the Speaker of the State Assembly, says 2 local governments are still being occupied by the insurgents, and you claim to say you said he mentioned them, still, what does it mean? Who knows who is occupying what space? Who is where, when and how and why? So I would be a little bit careful in making blanket statements that X is taking or has taken over location A or B or C. And let us not also forget that this is political season. So people who need certain insecurity stories in order for them to get re-elected or to justify not being elected or to cast aspersions on a very transparent process that has started by INEC would jump on whatever situation they could so as to maximize whatever intent they might have.
We'll shed a lot more light on that and get Dr. Chukwu's response, since you say we're in the political season. Now, speaking about being in the political season, in Imo State, some attack did occur there, some news just coming in. At the moment, we do have the police public relations officer, Michael Abatam, for Imo State. He joins us virtually this morning to shed some light on what transpired. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program. So, could you tell us, we understand that some attack in an INEC office and some persons killed. What happened?
Well, thank you, Charles. At about 0:30 hours this morning, suspected members of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra and its affiliates, Eastern Security Network, came in their numbers to the INEC office through petrol bombs and dynamite, but we are giving a stiff fight for the policemen on ground. They were hit badly and they took to their heels. While they were running, they abandoned a black Lexus vehicle, and we gave them a hot chase. The command 3030 were able to follow them, chase them, and in the process, we were able to neutralize 3 of them. We recovered 3 AK-47 from them, 3 pump action guns, 2 yet to be detonated IEDs. We equally recovered petrol bombs, charms, and other dangerous weapons. As I speak to you, 2 has been caught alive with bullet injuries. We are still combing. More information will be given to you. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Batam, in terms of their identity, is it clear? I was going to ask how the police were able to identify categorically that they were members of, what you said, they're members of IPOD and ESN. Is that what you said?
We suspected, I said suspected member. Suspected member.
Suspected.
Because it's presently, yes, we are investigating. It is the outcome that our investigation that will determine those who will be held complicit.
I'm looking at the damage right now wrought by those people very early this morning. Initially under the impression that a number of INEC offices were under heavy police protection. But it does look like they were able to rout some damage before they were eventually repelled. Can you give us, a picture as to what happened? Is it that there was nobody there and then the police were called in, or what really transpired?
What exactly happened was that they seized the advantage of a filling station that is close to the INEC office. So it was from that axis, because there's a common fence between the INEC office and the filling station. So they seized that opportunity, and through the IAD, that, of course, we all know the effects of IAD. Once it explodes, it ignites. That is the damage you are seeing. But we were able to put it, put the fire out. So not much, okay? Not much damage.
So you're confirming to us.
Yes, I'm saying
please
that.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, two offices. One just by the gate where the dynamite hit, and then the other one, the two petrol bombs. Those are the effects we are seeing. But the office is still intact.
So you say that you're still hot on the chase of the people who came. Do you have an idea of how many of them came, the attackers?
Well, from what we gathered, it was dark. We cannot say precisely the number, but they came in their number, and they came in 5 vehicles. We have recovered 3 of the vehicles because, like I said, they abandoned one due to the superior firepower of the police. They took to their heels, and we gave them a very hot chase, and that was how we were able to neutralize 3 of the hoodlums.
Well, I do not know whether to say, well done. I mean, because really you're putting out your best and you're doing the best that you can. I just wanted to confirm, we also heard some stories that one of your men was hit. Is that true?
Of course, one of our officers paid the supreme price. One was injured and is in good condition in one of the medical facilities.
Mm.
I can show you things.
How easy?
I can show you things with the cover.
Yeah.
They're here.
Okay, just a minute. How easy or difficult is it? Yeah, we can see some of them. How easy or difficult is it for the police to get intelligence? Because this appeared to have been carefully planned before they came out to execute it.
Yeah, the police and other security agencies were working in synergy, and we are doing our best. And as you can see, this is the result of one of our synergy.
Okay, just hold on for some more questions from my colleagues in Lagos.
Sincerely speaking, we are not relenting. What I want to say here is that policing is everybody's responsibility. See something, say something has always been our slogan. We want people, if you see something, you let us know so that we can take action on time.
Mr. Batam, what's the extent of damage of property inside the INEC office? That's on the one hand. And on the second hand, how similar is this attack to earlier attacks on INEC offices in Imo State that was attributed to being the work of IPOB?
Well, the rate of damage, like I said, is minimal. It's minimal. It's not what you see on social media. We're on the ground, and we can tell you what exactly happened. And just like I'm telling you, it's one of the offices, the building, and one other. And like I said, it has to do with the effect of dynamite, because dynamite go in, explode, and it ignites.
Similar is this to earlier attacks on INEC offices in Imo State?
If you recall, we have always repelled them. They have never succeeded. They have never. And we are working assiduously to make sure that election in Imo State will hold. And like I said, security agencies are working in synergy. So this is an eye-opener for whoever wants to come in and test our power. We are out for them, and our intelligence are key, and they are working.
All right, then Mike Abatam, Public Relations Officer for Imo State Police Command. Thank you very much indeed for your time, and well done.
Thank you
All right,
very
let's get
much.
back to studio here. So, Dr. Juku, well, you were going to get a response. The two local governments in question here, as highlighted by the Speaker of Borno State House of Assembly, Kukawa and Guazamala in Borno North Senatorial District. So, what kind of response, for instance? What role? Because, I mean, when it has to do with insurgency, most times you always ask, where is the policing component in all of this?
Oh. The policing component is deep, is heavy. The insurgency up north, in the northeast, has been it's been battled by a combination of forces. All the forces are involved. The military, the police, the SS, all the security organizations are involved in that operation. And they're making significant successes. It is true it's been on for a number of years. But you and I will agree that in the last 2-3 years, a lot of work has been done, a lot of successes done, a lot of areas liberated and reoccupied by the indigenes and citizens. You know. So a lot of work has been done. If there was a relapse in the two areas the Honorable Speaker mentioned, I do believe the security agencies will revisit and then reject the operations to reclaim them for Nigerians.
Yeah, but doesn't this appear to be some sort of lapse here? If these two local governments, he says, are being occupied by the insurgents, so can this be a political statement?
I'll tell you this, with all due respect. I think it is impossible for the insurgents that have been almost totally degraded to occupy Guzamala and Kukawa. It is almost impossible.
Why do you say so?
Because the saturation of forces in the theater, as my colleague just mentioned, is a joint task force, it's a joint operation, moving from Nigeria upwards and then coming from the MNJTF downwards, the push. And you have other countries present there, and the assets that we have, and the surge of troops and so on and so forth. It is practically impossible.
So why would the Speaker be on record?
Again, this is political season. I'm not from Borno State, and certainly I'm not contesting any office. But there are politicians who need chaos in order for them to succeed. There are some who need insecurity in order for them to remain in office or to be elected into office. Then there are those who need peace to return in order for them to be elected into office or for them to retain their offices. And this is played out across the entire Nigerian spectrum, from the northwest, the north central to the northeast. But in terms of the northeast, this insurgency, without a shadow of a doubt, we are at the consolidation phase, which is the end of the insurgency in the northeast.
So why would he then maintain this same stance almost all through this year? Also, almost always asking security agencies, the army, to go in there and dislodge them if you want a political capital.
Excellent point. Now, is the terrain being occupied or is the terrain being contested? In insurgencies, terrains can be contested. People will move in. It will not be habitable for them. People will move out.
He says it's under the control.
Under the control, yes. But then perhaps the Right Honourable Speaker himself should explain what he means by under the control. And as a Speaker of a Parliament, a state legislature, I would like to think he would be a little bit more cautious and careful with his statements, especially at this time.
In what way?
By being responsible. He's a leader in Borno State. The theater command is there. All the formations are there. The governor is there. We see the governor almost every single day running from one point to the other with his entire cabinet. So there are better ways of articulating his points. Even if there are political differences and he feels the political component will not listen to him, the security matrix is there at his disposal. The theater command is there. The SDS of the DSS is there. The police are there, and so on and so forth. And if he had been consistent in saying this same thing Believe you me, the way Nigerians inquire, investigate, interrogate, by now someone would have brought out irrefutable evidence of these areas being fully occupied by insurgents and perhaps with their flags flying.
We cannot independently verify if he's taking advantage of these channels that you highlighted. But Mr. Ojukwu, how should the authorities be responding to this kind of scenario?
Oh, well, if we think the man is crying wolf or is being mischievous, trying to disinform or misinform, I think the law will take its course.
What if he's not?
If it's not, and if for us to know whether he was acting on the mischief streak, it has to be investigated. If he has been crying for since January, as you said, in fact, it's a shame that by December, a lot has not been done. From January till now, nothing has been done towards stopping the situation from deteriorating or addressing the issues he raised, then I'll be ashamed if with the security services. I do believe they must have gone into it to realize whether it is true or not, and if it's true, take necessary actions to reclaim the territory.
Well, gentlemen, it's a packed Monday, and as such, we expect that there will be some follow-up on this kind of matters and all of those security issues that have been highlighted, but I'm afraid that we have to anchor this segment at this point because we also have some other matters coming about. It's by no means exhausted. We'll always keep this kind of matters, ongoing so that we can all get results. Politics notwithstanding. But gentlemen, I have to thank both of you for coming on. Honorable Ali Ibrahim Gebi, National Coordinator, Security Governance Initiative, and the former member, Security Committee of the House of Representatives, as well as Dr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, the Provost of Police Public Relations School here in Abuja. Thank you both for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning.
We're back in a moment, everyone. Stay with us.
The struggle, long queues, brisk business by jerrycan merchants, and price distortion has exacerbated an already difficult situation of premium motor spirit PMS, popularly called petrol. Whilst the federal government continues to keep assurances in high esteem, this may have prompted the authority's chief executive of the Nigerian Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Mr. Farouk Ahmed, to visit Lagos to ascertain that every molecule claimed is actually available. He's on a tour of the depots that receive imported petroleum products and does the honors of interrogating the operators himself.
In terms of truckload out, your opening stock?
We have an opening stock of about 28 million liters. Unlike last week, the stock situation has drastically improved. I can say last week, the supply was a bit challengeful. As we are today, even the number of ships at the Apapa has increased. It has become like 3 ships in the jetty now, and we are expecting 2 more to come. So in the days to come, we feel that this 28 million stock will be improved to like 50-55 million. And our truck out also has been steady. For the last couple of days, we have been doing 5 million liters per day. And we expect this trend to continue for the next 1 week.
When did you commence loading?
I will commence around after 7, like 15 minutes after 7.
Okay.
Yes, okay. And we are loading till maybe 7,
okay,
once it's safe.
Approximately how many trucks do you load a day? If you have, when you have
65, 70.
Okay.
We asked him how the authority is hoping to deal with the issues around distribution and expanding the scope to IPMAN members.
Another area that we are looking at is to work with NMPC to say that part of those volumes that they are given to Mauman or Darkman should continue. However, the volume from NMPC's throughput, I think we should give more emphasis to allocating it to the IPMAN.
With all the volumes being pumped out, what is the stock levels to mitigate the high demand?
First of all, offshore, we can confirm that we have sufficient import vessels, over 20 days sufficiency. And the land, we have over 10 days, 11 days sufficiency, and of course, on the shuttle vessels. But what is important is to translate that offshore on land, and that's the key.
In recent years, the Utah season has become a measure stick for how government performs in terms of petrol availability.
Thanks for staying with us. Well, Mr. Peter Esele joins us this morning. He is former president of TUC. He joins us virtually from Lagos, as well as Sonny Nkwe, who is zonal chairman, System 2E Eastern Zone of Petron. He also joins us from Port Harcourt virtually. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, let me begin with you, Mr. Nkwe. Currently, as far as you are concerned, and from what you know, what is the current situation where you are?
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, comrades. Peter Esele. It's good to have you around. It's been a very long time I saw you, so good to have you around. Thank you very much. My name is Sonny Nkwe. I'm the zonal chairman for System 2E Eastern Zone of Petroleum Product Outlet Owners Association of Nigeria, Petron. Okay, back to your question. The situation is bad here in Port Harcourt and the System 2E zone is very, very bad. I think in the past few months, we have not been able to buy product directly from NNPC. Approval to pay ATP is not issued. My members resort to buying through third party and other off-takers in order to avert chronic fuel scarcity in this region. So that's the situation here. We're just managing. Every day we hold crisis meeting, we hold war room meeting in order to see how we can sustain the situation.
Very quickly, so we can maximize the time we have. What is responsible for that, and what is the consequence of what you said your member? What's the difference between the prices, and what's the consequence of the action that your members are compelled to take?
The difference in prices is that we're currently buying at 250 from 220 to 230. So if we're buying directly from our location or from our allocated product from NNPC, of course, we'll be buying at the approved price of about 148.71 kobo.
Well, Mr. Esele,
we sell at the control price.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Nkwe. Mr. Esele, we've had this conversation before, and it would seem like nothing, the needle is not moving, or is it?
Thank you for having me. Yes, the needle is not moving. And you know, the last time we had this conversation, and I was very clear that it's going to be very, very tough for them to work around it. But what are the challenges? The challenges that we have right now is that there is a cartel. You just can't say we've had this going on. I just came in from Port Harcourt, and then I'll give you a synopsis of prices that was going on in Port Harcourt. At the Eliozu area in Port Harcourt, the prices were between 200 and 230 naira. Then in the NNPC retail outlet, what you have is that you have the normal price, and then you have queues of stretching up to a kilometer for that. So why do we have that? And in some part of Lagos, there are places where you can get at 170. There are also places where you get between 240 and 280 in some parts of Lagos. So what you have now is that you now have the regulation on itself. Meanwhile, government is still paying subsidy. So if government is paying subsidy, we should get value for money. So why are we not getting value for money? The reason why we are not getting value for money is corruption along the way. These guys in Petra can't get a product because they are also not connected. Everything is done by who knows who. So if that is the way it's going, we are going to have a very chaotic or a bleak Christmas for petroleum product supply. And sometimes you also get to the NNPC, some of the retail outlets, there is no product. Why? So my own take here is that government should intervene. In situations like this, what I expect to be happening right now is the National Assembly calling all parties. It's not even the DSS. I commend what the DSS came out to do, but this is responsibility of those who were elected by Nigerian people to make their life easier, to know why are we going through this again and again? Why aren't we able to find lasting solution to it? That is the fundamental aspect of it. If we are paying subsidy, we know we are paying subsidy, and then we should know how much we are spending on subsidy And then we should get value for the money of subsidy. If we are not paying subsidy, then we tell marketers, okay, we are not paying subsidy anymore, then sell, let it be dictated by market rate. But we are paying subsidy.
Mr. Sele, it will seem as if, you know, you have more questions also, so I wonder how to proceed, but I will all the same. We saw in that report where some marketers were, you know, talking about some vessels now being available, they've begun to load, and we saw the retailers also saying that they've begun to load and they were going to work for some hours. So the question is really, what was different between when the scarcity was biting hard and causing difficulty on Nigerians, and now when regulatory authorities are beginning to, you know, compel those who should act to act? What's different?
What's different now is that you are having a situation whereby things have gotten so bad and is affecting the image of the government. So that's why you are having what I call back channel pressure from government, from Department of State Security. Because when the Department of State Security comes out with an ultimatum, which is very unusual, so it means that the department also knows certain things that is happening within the system. So what the department is doing is putting their feet by the fire. Kind of, if you guys don't act up, we'll start picking you people up and also start investigating whatever irregularities that is at play. Now, you buy at 148. You buy at 148. So what you are expected to sell at 175. This retail outlet cannot get to buy at 148. So the reason why they are not getting to buy at 148, now using third party. Why then? Why are you using third party? Why can't they get it directly? And we all know the effect of middlemen. The third party, another word for them is actually the middleman. They can use the word third party, but it's a middleman. And they are there to make more money. So
Mr. Sele, was the difficulty experienced prior to the ultimatum given, was it deliberate?
If it's to make money. Now, the first thing they told us is that I was embarrassed when somebody from NNPC came and said it's because of repair works in Apapa. Apapa has been in a mess for a very long time, for ages. But now they are fixing the Apapa road. So telling us now that that is the reason why we are having scarcity also tells you about the relation of duty, which means these are things that you should anticipate and plan for it. But that was not done. So what you're having is a series of back channel pressure being piled on the regulatory authority and NNPC to make sure these products are out. So hopefully, maybe in another 1 week, we'll revisit this matter, and I'm seeing there may be some progress. The queues, yes, Port Harcourt was tough, yes, but the queues are abating gradually. But I'm hopeful that with DSS stepping in, things may get better.
Well, Mr. Ankpe, yes, we will revisit this matter as we proceed, but yes, DSS also stepping in appears to be having a huge impact. But the MD of one of these oil marketing companies did say some time ago that NNPC, being the sole importer of this product, is posing a huge challenge in the sector. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I absolutely agree. Chambers, you know, unfortunately, I don't want to be speaking like my comrade Sele there, because he is more of an activist. I'm a businessman, and I try to be objective about what I feel is the problem, because we are affected and we are losing so much. So, comrade, you know what I mean. So let me tell you something today. Let me be very frank here. The System 2E, for instance, has an already designed medium of product dispensation through the Port Harcourt depot, through Calabar, through Enugu, through Aba depot, up to Makurdi. But in the past 6 months, there has never been a drop of allocation to Port Harcourt depot. I don't understand what's going on. We have made several efforts. We have engaged with the authority, former DPRO. We have engaged with everybody. If you want to achieve effective distribution, all you need to do is a very simple thing. And if they are sincere and want to be transparent about the process, just send a vessel to Port Harcourt depot. Once you send the vessel to Port Harcourt depot alone would transfer to Aba, it will transfer to Enugu, And
So,
this problem will be solved immediately.
Time is usually not our friend in this kind of interesting matters. But you know what? Both the activist, the businessman, the lawyer, the journalist, the doctor, we are all affected. So we have to say the truth no matter whose ox is God.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Mr. Mpe, could you tell us as well, since you say you want to be objective, what is this thing they call PFI, system money? Is it transparent? Who collects it? Why?
Well, why not direct that question to NNPC? Because what we know works here is if you give us authority to pay ATP, we pay to them. But like I said, ATP has not been given to my members for more than 6 months. So who are those that are benefiting from this ATP? They give to PDO. From there, the product goes away. Prices are being put on this product, and it comes to us at 200 and something. Who are those that are there? So I think the appropriate question should be directed to them.
I thought you would objective and tell us, since you know about it. It's your sector, so you will know. But comrade, you've also been there as well. Could you tell us what this PFI system money is and why does it have to be collected in dollars? We understand now it's in the region of $300,000 per person to collect it.
You see, first I'm going to address first thing is, he just made reference to businessmen, activists, what have you. He has to be very diplomatic. He has a business to run. So I understand his own side. And the reason why he's afraid to talk the way he wants to express himself is the fact that he does not want to suffer any consequence to his business and to his members. First thing is, why are we paying dollars in the first place in an economy that we are talking about not wanting to go to that route? That's one. Then number two, he's talking about ATP, which is also an authority to pay. Why are they not receiving this product in the last 6 months? So who has been receiving this product in the last 6 months? So I have always made my point clear, is that there's a racketeering going on, which is to the detriment of the ordinary Nigerian on the street. So it is responsibility of the government. Now, in a functional society or in a functional government, I use the word functional, is that people must understand that there are consequences for every action. I always kick about when they talk about free market. In a society like ours, we don't have any antitrust. We don't have too much profiteering. In the UK, for example, now you're having the oil windfall. Companies are going to pay huge taxes because they're making so much profit. But in our case, those who are running it right now in the country, they are busy wanting to make more money at the detriment of the ordinary Nigerians. And that is the area where government must move in, the National Assembly must move in, so that we know this $300,000 that is being collected on PFI, what is it being used for? What is it meant for? And how is it affecting availability of products down the road? Until
we'll keep our focus on that money as well. We'll try and follow up and trace and find out, is it legal? Is it legitimate? What is it for? Why are they collecting it? Does it go to government, for instance? But tell us now, since you mentioned federal government's dealings, now, would it be a good idea moving forward that for any business that federal government has to do with players in that sector, let everything be paid in Naira?
Yes. First, it's going to be, that would be a wonderful thing to do. But first, crude oil is bought in dollars. So if you want to buy, let's give an example, a barrel of crude oil you want to buy from NNPC, for example, is that to be valued in dollars. And then we can do the conversion in Naira. Then it makes it easier for anybody who's doing business can go ahead and do their business. But the challenge we have is that I keep emphasizing that our biggest problem is one, policy inconsistency. Two, lack of discipline to follow through our policies. Three, appropriate sanctions are not meted out to people who should change the system. Four, we don't put the right people in the right places. Five, to get anything you want, you must know somebody. Why do you have to do that? Until we make the system to only bring out the best in us, to run whatever we are doing, we ain't going anywhere.
You talked about sanctions, and on Friday, just before we went for the weekend, we heard the DSS issuing an ultimatum to both the NNPC and marketers, and that was supposed to have yielded some fruit. First and foremost, what did you make of the news? And I do not know whether it has produced any results in your area.
The difference is that what I expect when DSS comes out in that form, it means that DSS already have information. My own challenge there is that first, when I heard the announcement, the first thing in my head was, oh, why is DSS coming out? The first people that I expect to come out is the National Assembly and those that were elected. For DSS to come out and issue ultimatum, DSS must be privy to certain information. I just have an idea of how they operate when I was in TUC. And if they want to be positive, they can be positive in arresting what is happening. But that's also exposing DSS. I'm always very worried when we get people into play. That also means exposing DSS to certain things that play out in that sector. Every one of us, the media, everybody should also focus on the DSS, to also set DSS to come out with its results after 48 hours. Or else, DSS may also now be a player in the game because people involved in it, these are big-time players. They know what they want, they know how to go about it, and all they're after is how to make more money. So DSS too also need to tell Nigerians their findings after 48 hours, and whoever is behind this should be prosecuted because there are enough products. That I know for sure. There are enough products in country to make sure that everybody gets a liter of petrol in his car or her car or in a generator. So we have enough product. Why is the product not going around? That is the million-naira question that we should be asking.
Let me ask you, Mr. Ankpe, has there been any effect on your members from the threat issued by the DSS? Were you happy to hear it or were you worried by it?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, we want to commend the DSS for their intervention. We appreciate that, but there is no effect whatsoever on what's been going on and our circumstance. Our circumstance has not changed. Let me also make it categorically clear here that there is no amount of threat issued by DSS is going to change anything. If it must change, it must start from the source. They should go to the depots. They should go to the PDOs, to the private depot operators. They should find out what's going on there because that's where, for now, we're getting products from. Until the cartel, the cabal in that area is handled or is taken care of, we can never get any reduction or fairness in the distribution of this product. Because the product goes here, it lands here, and the off-takers fix their price there, and they begin to bring it, to load it out to our members the way they feel is their own price. So that is where the problem is.
What is the group name of this cabal? Can you tell us?
Sorry, say that again.
What is the group name of this cabal that you refer to?
No. There are a lot of PDO. There are they call off-takers. They call them off-takers.
All right.
Off-takers.
We'll stay on the matter. We'll revisit this matter because we're completely out of time on this. And we appreciate both of you for coming on, Comrade Peter Esele, former president of TUC, also Sonny Ankpe, Zonal Chairman, System 2E, Eastern Zone of Petron. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Well, we will keep our focus and ensure that these matters will get resolved on the matter. Thank you for watching, everybody. I am Chamberlain, so goodbye.
Well, here's wishing you a great Monday and a great week ahead. Thank you. I'm Malcolm Yusuf.
Well, what an eventful Monday it's been, and we won't forget to commiserate with the Imo Police Command having lost one man in that attack on the INEC office. Thank you for watching Sunrise Daily on Channels Television today. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
The week is young, so make the best of it. I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a wonderful rest of your day.